Hi, I'm Mary Cross and welcome to the Building Bliss podcast. Today's episode is a little bit different because today's guest, Jane Horan, actually was one of my first guests that I recorded on the podcast last March. But a lot's happened since then, and on reflection we looked back together and thought it was probably best to actually re-record the whole episode so that she could talk about what's happened and also what she's learnt from it. So welcome, Jane.
Thank
to the
you.
second version of your podcast recording.
Thank
So
you.
Jane Horan is a wellness practitioner, crystal therapist and soul coach. So yeah, how are you? How have you been since the last time we sat down to record?
Yeah, it's been a bit up and down, I'd say. Definitely a lot has happened. Obviously there was a lot of public humiliation that was put out online. A lot of discomfort and things. I've not actually read anything, to be honest. Other people have read it on my behalf. But yeah, I think it was definitely a challenging time for me. But it was also God's biggest blessing, I'd say, really. I've still not read anything because it is irrelevant. I've just taken the lessons from it more than anything. And you know, I'm extremely shocked by my resilience to it all. So it's definitely been how would you say, like, it's definitely been a amazing self-reflection experience for me, because it has really built my confidence in the sense of my own resilience to online negative crap, basically, that is written. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was some truth behind some of the things that were being said, such as cancellations and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Because it was an attack on your business and you as a person, really. It was.
It was an attack on my business, my name, me as a person. And I think a lot of the stuff that was kind of done was picked up on the fact that throughout the process, because I am so open and don't really, or haven't, I do now, but didn't really have a lot of boundaries, and I liked people to see the vulnerable part of who I am, so that they could understand and know as well that their growth, and you know, it doesn't matter what you've been through, it doesn't matter, you know. And I've always shared those experiences. A lot of people know that I was very disorganised, you know, I was very open about that. And I think the people who decided to pursue all of that online were people who knew those vulnerable parts of who I am, and just kind of use that to, you know, to trigger a lot of people. They knew that I was making a lot of cancellations, and obviously it was portrayed that way, but there was a reasoning behind why, you know, these things were happening. You know, I wasn't coping. That was very, very obvious to a lot of people. You know, the business was in such high demand. It was all on me. I was single-handedly trying to operate everything.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. People want you with the sorts of things that you do as a healer and a therapist. Yeah. They want you, don't they?
Of course, and someone with the expertise of sort of doing the things that I do, you know. A lot of the people that came to me was through word of mouth. A lot of the sort of business that came to me from online was mainly me pushing the crystals that was for sale, or, you know, there was a Black Friday sale or things like that. A lot of the one-to-one interaction was from word of mouth, and people who had recommended me. So when they were coming and I'd got other people in replace of me to try and run the operations of the business, they weren't wanting that. They were then getting a bit peeved off because I wasn't available, and it just became too much, and I lost my purpose of why I actually started the business in the first place, and I lost my passion, really. And we went through a lot personally before I decided to close the business. At the time, I think we spoke about this before, you know, there was a process of the demands of the business were becoming overwhelming for me. You know, obviously I do have ADHD, and the process of all the operational side of things was just too much. I couldn't stay organised, I couldn't commit to anything, I couldn't stick to anything. You know, some mornings I'd drive to work and I'd just be like, get to the roundabout where my little shop was, and I'd get to the roundabout and I'd be like, right, I've got a day of like 9 clients, and I'd just indicate left and go back home, ring whoever was in the shop and say cancel all of my clients, because I wasn't coping. But instead of addressing that, I just ploughed through, had a few days rest, then went back to it and apologised, you know, sorry for the cancellation, we'll get your rebook back in, you know, all intentions were pure, but I wasn't pure enough to recognise that I wasn't coping.
Yeah, because you got very ill yourself, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I ended up with meningitis. I was in hospital with meningitis in the September 22, and the doctor said to me, you know, your nervous system has taken a bit of a toll, and we want you to rest for the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks. So I rested, and I stayed in bed and I watched a whole series of Suits, and it was amazing and I loved it, and learned some good tips, and then what happened after that, and then I started delivering therapies and things again, only to my existing clients, not to the open public, and the clients were coming to my home. I had a little space in my front lounge. You know, I was sad that I had to give up the shop because I wasn't coping. I almost felt like I'd failed. But in hindsight, it wasn't a failure. It was just didn't align with me anymore, and it was too much. I took on too much for what my little brain can cope with. So I went back to do Model Love. I went back to focusing on me and my own self-care again, because that completely went for such a long time.
Which is not on brand, is it, when you're a wellness?
Absolutely not. Totally
person.
not on brand. I'm sitting there saying, you know, nice deep breath in for 4, exhale for 4, and I go home and I'm like, can't breathe. But yeah, no, I think that whole process was just a little bit of a crazy one, and then I went into do therapies from home and things like that, and then me being me, spontaneous Annie, got carried away again, opened up a studio, got myself into a whole load of demand again, and then that happened in the summer, and I took a bit of a hit on that. And I fully believe in the universe saying, what, you didn't want to listen to us in September? Right, okay, well, we're going to make this happen now, and we're going to use these really toxic energies to do this for you.
We're really going to show you this time.
Really going to show you this time, and we're going to, you know, we're going to pull in all that toxic energy, and we're just going to direct it in your way. And that's what happened. But along that process, I definitely practiced what I preach to people, and never ever engage in low vibrational frequency. There was never one response. I never read anything. I never commented on anything. And the only response I gave to anything at all was via email. And that response was, don't email me, basically. And from that, I just kind of had some rest and then flourished again. Flourished, but yeah, I did. I just completely, I feel like how do we explain it? I feel like the most empowered version of who I am that I've ever been, and that can never be taken away.
No. Well, I think I would say it was pretty much rock bottom. I certainly saw you at what I think was a person and a human's rock bottom when it all happened. So it really is a powerful testament to see how you have come back from it.
Absolutely.
But whilst learning the lessons that you could from it.
Oh, absolutely. I think I learned many lessons. Boundaries is definitely one of them. And I think I also learned that who were my people. And I learned that, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be not in control. And also, it did enable me to see the resilience within me, and actually give me that in-depth self-belief that actually everything I've been teaching I have practiced, because I've really come back from this. And you know, it was a journey, and there was a lot of parts of myself that I was questioning, and you know, a lot of things that I questioned from youth that flared up again for me. And you know, it didn't just affect me, it affected my family, my daughter. You know, we did at one point have somebody turning up at Charlotte's school because that school had been disclosed on this group, either the group or on Facebook somewhere. And you know, I was holding Charlotte's hand at school and somebody approached me, and you know, that's not okay. And at that point, when I seen, you know, I didn't really get the fight in me at first, but as soon as I seen Charlotte be affected by that was it for me.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me the strength to be like, hold on a minute, Jane, what's gone on through life? What's gone on from your youth, from a very young child, into early adulthood, into abusive relationship, into then another relationship which emotionally destroyed me, to finding the absolute love of my life and having the most amazing life. I've been through more than an online post.
Yeah.
You know, that's nothing in hindsight. So
Yeah.
I've done what I do and stepped out holistically and looked at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you back on your feet.
I know, back
and,
on my
and
feet.
thriving.
Or my hands, doing a
Yeah.
handstand, one
Yeah.
or the other.
So with all that being said then,
Yes.
I'm very interested to hear your answer to the first question, which is, can you pinpoint a moment which is your bravest in life?
I think it'll always go back to, I don't really think there was strength within what's happened, but bravery, I would definitely take myself back to when I was in a really discomforted situation in life, wouldn't necessarily call it a relationship, but it was a very toxic connection with an individual that went on for many years, and we just brought out the worst in each other, and you know, it was discomforting, and I'd probably say the bravest thing was to just recognising my own self-worth and actually what a wonderful, lovely person I am, and not trying to prove that to people. And the only way for me to do that was to step out of the environment that I was in and take myself off somewhere. And a lot of people said, oh, you're running away from it all, but for me it wasn't. I was removing the unworthy part of who I am. I was removing them and going into an environment of people who didn't know me, who could take me at face value for the work that I was wanting to do on myself.
Yeah.
So I got on a flight to Canada, as you do. I think I was there between 12 and 18 months, I can't quite remember.
So what age was that when you went?
20, let me think, I think I was 24, 20, I met Col, 26, so I was 24, yeah, I was 24, spent about 12, 18 months there, came home, but while I was there, again, it was all of that what got me into like everything holistic, and doing many practices before that as well, but it was definitely that point where I thought, right, I'm going to be open here, I need to heal, I need to know my own worth, I need to know my own self-worth, and I need to be bloody brave, and I need to face some really dark parts of who I am, to be able for me to come out into the light a little bit more, and be the best version of myself.
And sometimes you do have to take yourself out of where you are to be able to do that, and away from the people that know you, because they will always pigeonhole you into the person they think they know you as.
Yes.
So that fresh start gave you the chance to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that was probably one of the bravest moments of my life, because it was saying goodbye and letting go of what had been since I was 6 years old to being on my own and not having an absolute clue who I was.
Yeah. It's a good way to find yourself though.
Blimmin' heck, yeah.
Yeah.
Amongst the valleys of Canada.
Yeah. What made you pick Canada?
Well, I was actually going to Australia because I thought, I'd like to go to Australia and see kangaroos and all that jazz. And then last minute, I got my Australian visa, and there was actually, at the time, there was a guy going there that I was like, ooh, I quite like him. So I might just go to Australia, we might bump into each other. And then decided not to do that. And because a family member reached out to me who lived in Canada that I'd not met since I was about 2 or 3, and said, why don't you come and stay with us? And we'll put you up while you travel, and then you're safe. And they didn't know anything about me. They knew about what had gone on in my youth, and they knew about the struggles that I had as a child, but they didn't know anything about me as an adult or anything like that. So I was able to just go and get my cards out and be me and be, you know, all of those quirky things about me. And that's why I went to Canada.
Yeah. So what drew you to the holistic side in Canada? Did you meet someone who was into that?
Yes. So my cousin who lived there, who I was actually living with, her husband's mum was a Reiki master, So it really got me into that whole side of Reiki. And then we used to go to this little hut, which was like a yoga studio place with my cousin and a couple of their friends. And we were doing all yoga and all the ram, lam, all that jazz. And I just loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like a total free spirit.
You're like on retreat, basically.
Literally, retreat for like 12 to 18 months. And then I came home, surprised my family from that, and came home because I was missing them. And life there became the same as what it was here, not relationship wise, more so, you know, I was working there, I was doing all of that, and I was really missing my family, so I thought I might as well come home, be with my family, and then just be who I am now here. And that's what I've done.
And how was that when you got back? Could people accept you for the different person you've become?
No, I got called my crystal lady, which I've always been known. Yeah, that's not changed. No. You know, I was always leaving crystals around the house, and you know, angelic cards in all my family's house and stuff, and they were like, oh, there she goes, you know. But little did they know I was gonna, you know, that was my passion, and I was like that before I even went. But there's always been a soft, cheesy side to me, definitely. But I think before I even went to Canada, there was always that part of me.
Yeah, so you felt that you had, I won't say the word gift because that can be a bit loaded, but you felt you had a higher level perhaps of intuition.
Yeah, definitely.
Than the ordinary
since a little girl,
person. Yeah.
I've definitely been that way since a little girl, and I think connecting with people, you know, sometimes I could be in a nightclub, and I remember once actually being in Liverpool in the Cavern Club, absolutely bladdered off Jaeger bombs, like, oh, I was so drunk, and this guy was just, must have thought I was off my rocker, but I just went over to him and I was like, just go home and, you know, go home to your wife and, you know, make your life happier, and the next minute he's crying his eyes out to me, he's like, how do you know? Anyway, he went home, and hopefully he's still with her now, and whatever, but yeah, it was I think it was definitely a challenge coming back and really being, and not falling back into those patterns. And I moved away, so I moved to Bebington, so that was way away from sort of the area I grew up in, the area I lived in, any people associated with past. I just didn't really want to bump into anybody. And yeah, I just wanted to just really strive in the new way of where I was. And
yeah, because it is hard that when people think they know you a certain way, but then you begin to change. And they're like, well, you've changed.
And people drop off. People who aren't aligned with who you are, you know, at your core, which is what I went to discover, they no longer serve a purpose in life. And I think that's what a lot of people tend to struggle with, is once you get to that point of growth, you know, people will either rise with you and you'll stay together, or they will drop off and sort of be removed from your life. And you know, that has a whole other process of grief and all kinds of things. So I think there's definitely been challenges, but I'm so glad that I stuck by my truth, and that I continue to grow and to learn and to study all of the things that I'm passionate about, so that I could help other people the way it completely transformed me. And that's how the transformational soul coaching came in, is because all of those things that I've learned over the last sort of 14 years now, has 13 years, has come into play now in my existence, to be able to support and help other people with it.
So you've come back from Canada, you've got your newfound...
Can you see how my breathing changes when I talk about that whole part of my life? I'm like...
Well, it is, because it is, when you think about
I feel
things,
even like quite tremory.
You're back there, aren't you? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between being in the situation and thinking about it again. So, which is why a lot of people, you know, suffer from anxiety, because they're constantly replaying things.
In that,
So, but you came back, you were this new person. How did you get to actually making it your career and your business to do that?
Well, funny. So, I was actually working, obviously, as everyone knows me prior to this, I was an estate agent, working in an estate agency. And I was very good at sales, and I was very good with people, and I was very understanding and empathetic and things like that. And it you know, I listened to what people wanted. And it was in that, I loved it. I really did love it at the time. And then Charlotte was born, and I was like, no, it was a hobby, and I thought, I can't work in an estate agent for the rest of my life and be a mum.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't align anymore. And the whole purpose of Charlotte being there and her presence and everything, I just thought, I want her to see me for who I am. And I felt like that pushy sales, like, you know, wasn't, it is part of who I am because it reflects in my business, but it wasn't me. And I wanted Charlotte to grow up with all of the different practices and things, to see that, you know, obviously there is another way, and to be brave and to take chances in life. And if something is making you unhappy, you know, it's easily changed. People read into it so much more, and actually if something's making you unhappy, you just got to change it. And you've got to be brave enough to do that. Yeah,
a lot of people will just sit in their misery, won't they, rather than make a change.
And I just took a leap of faith, and the guy over the road was selling up his shop, and I was just sitting there, like, didn't have any experience in running a business at all, and I was just sitting there like, I've been saving, we were going to buy a house, should I use my savings to just invest in that shop? And I went home and said to Colin, I've used the savings and I've took on that shop. And he was like, what? I was like, I've left my job, and he's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I'm serious. I'll make it work. And I did, and it was supporting people, and obviously it was my livelihood, but it was supporting people, but also I was going to work every day loving being surrounded by good energy and crystals and all the things that I love. And that's how it started. But I think the shop was part of my own healing journey, as well as others. I think that was never going to be forever. Now looking back, at the time I thought that was it forever, but I think that was a big part of my own healing journey, for sure.
Because you were following your purpose and your passion.
Absolutely,
yeah. So I don't think I need to ask you whether you've got bravery as you've got older, because it sounds to me like you've been brave all your life, really. Do you consider yourself a brave person, or is it just what you do? It's just the way you are?
I think now I do. Before this year, I didn't. It was just the norm. But I think knowing my own resilience and people saying to me, how? Like, you are incredible. How have you, like, gone through that and done this? And I'm like, that's that in comparison to what I've gone through. Like, that is
this is life.
That is what's happened in my entire life. This, you know, is that big? Like, it's a blip. It's not, you know, it's not as big as what I felt it was in the moment. And I think that made me realise, actually, oh my goodness, Jane, the shit you've been through, you are an absolute rocket poppet. Is that what you call it? A poppet rocket?
A pocket rocket.
What did I say?
A rocket poppet.
We'll call it that. I'm a rocket poppet. A rocket poppet.
Yeah, because I think when things are raw, they do seem like the biggest thing. But I guess at the time, you probably thought that's the worst thing that could ever have happened to you in that moment.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But you've faced that and come out the other side of it. So do you feel a little bit invincible now, would you say?
I feel empowered, that's for sure. And I think a lot of people, what's going on with my speech? A lot of people reached out to me. Have reached out to me over the last year, and I think that has definitely added to me, my empowerment of actually people can see me for who I am.
Yeah.
And not what's been portrayed of me.
Yeah. And that's really important, isn't it? That the people who know you know you.
And I couldn't give two flying shits, to be honest, who thinks what about me.
Yeah.
The people in my circle, that's all I care about. Before, I cared what everyone thought. I got a bad review and I'd be like, oh my God, you know, I couldn't give two flying shits. If people want to look at me in the street and think you're an absolute knob, think it. I don't care about that. Like, I know who I am, and that's the difference between self-esteem and self-belief. When you have that self-belief within you, you are completely immovable. No matter what anyone says or does, or how far they want to take things, it's here.
Yeah.
And no one can move that because you believe in yourself and who you are as a person. And I definitely think this last year, that has just tied the knot for me.
Yeah.
And now I don't care what people think. Obviously, you know, the people in my circle, I care what they think, and if they think you shouldn't be doing something that way, then I'll listen.
Yeah.
But anyone out of that circle, I don't care, you know. And I think you do become a bit invincible, because it's you've got to toughen up. You've in life, you know, not just business. In life, you've got to be tough, and you will face challenges as you grow and as you develop and as you exceed the expectations of what people expect around you. People will look at you and go, who the fuck does she think she is?
Yeah, like it's triggering to some people, isn't it?
Of course it is, and that's okay, because that's not a reflection of you or me. That's just where they are in life, and hopefully someone will see that and reach out to them and give them that growth. But I think having your own boundaries in place, you're not there to fix somebody else.
No.
You're not there to, you know, for somebody to become dependent on your way of doing things. If you want to change something or you want something, you have to do that work yourself.
Yeah.
It's great to have the support, but you definitely need that additional sort of transition from self-worth to self-belief.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something I've learn't from our
self-esteem,
coaching.
to self-belief.
Yeah, something I've learnt from our coaching. I'd say to you, I couldn't have done this without you. I wouldn't be here without you. And you're like, no, you've done it. I just showed you the tools.
Yeah, that's
to get there.
And held you through the process. And I think there's something so powerful of, you know, being able to hold somebody, whether it be through business, through coaching, through friendship, through family, through children, being held that way in such a nurturing, supportive way, I think can give anyone the strength to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But you just have to be held by somebody to you know, to transition through the falls. Yeah.
So moving on to laughter then, let's lighten the mood. So how important is laughter to you, and how has that been important getting through this past few months, would you say?
Huge. It's helped coming to Bliss comedy nights.
Thanks for the plug. Yes, for that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's laughter is everything. Like, you know, I've always been dead funny. Play your own trumpet. No, I've always been dead funny, because I feel that it's a huge part. You know, Colin's really funny. Like, absolutely has me in stitches. Laughter is everything, and I think if you can't laugh, you haven't lived. Basically. Yeah.
Well, I think we've gone from crying to laughing in a matter of seconds, haven't we?
Oh,
sometimes?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think I saw a meme the other day that said, making someone laugh after they've cried is a superpower.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was like, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Laughter's everything, and it's such an important part of our well-being. It releases so many things, and I always say, as part of laughter is, you know, my sister said to me once, when I was going through quite another difficult time, do one thing every day, Jane, that makes you feel like a child. Come on, skip with me. I was like, oh, whatever, I'm not skipping down the road. Cringe. Like, I'm too cool for that. She's like, come on. It's like outside my flat where I lived, and we skipped, and I laughed so much that all the feelings of that anxiety that I was feeling, I thought something was going to happen to me. I was getting tingles right to my head. It was horrible, and my feet felt wavy, and it was just the strangest thing. And she said, skip with me, and we skipped. And ever since that, I've done something every day that makes me feel like a child. Sometimes it's being a spoiled brat, but sometimes, you know, it is a lot of laughter that is, you know, and I encourage Charlotte to do that as well. You know, be silly dancing, you know, pulling silly faces, doing silly things, making each other laugh.
Yeah. Well, it's built in children, isn't it? And, you know, children just laugh. It's built. It's a primeval response, but it's somewhere we lose it. And I'm not quite sure what it is that does that. I don't know. Obviously, teenage years are difficult, aren't they? And then you're bothered about, you know, looking cool in front of your mates. So you don't want to be, like, childish. But then I think you get older again and you're like, oh, no, I want to be childish. I want to play.
Yeah. I think it's the experiences in life, isn't it, that we all go through. You know, even everybody listening to this will have been through something that has tested their happiness, and you know, laughter is happiness, isn't it? So if you're feeling unhappy or depressed or anxious or stressed, you know, laughter doesn't tend to appear. And it's a practice that I believe should be forced, just to, you know, even just smiling can bring a feeling of comfort. So, you know, having that, the access to that, we all have it, but when we're in despair or we're in moments of complete sheer panic and worry, or just feeling low and not really can't be bothered with life because of trauma or experiences that have happened, it stops us from laughing, because it's not funny.
No.
Do you know?
Yeah.
It, like, literally, it's not funny. Like, those experiences aren't funny for people, so you don't want to laugh because you know. But then you kind of, I think that's when those experiences build the courage up within a person and the strength within a person, that when we get to the age of, actually, I want to be a kid again, I want to be funny, I want to, you know, experience all that stuff again. I think that's the turning point for people, is when they think, actually, we don't need to take these situations so serious anymore because I'm healed from it.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
It's not that big a deal.
But in the moment when things are happening, it is hard to have that
horrendous.
perspective, isn't it? But I think laughter is a route through difficult times. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, even at the most serious of times, people who've seen my stand-up probably think, oh, I can't believe you're joking about that, you know, about your mum being on your deathbed or whatever, and she's still here. But that's my way of dealing with it,
Course,
and it's a
laughter.
release, and it's cathartic, and then other people hear that and think, oh, so it is all right to laugh about that. There is humour in that situation, even though it's sad and can be, you know, depressing or whatever, but it just gives a release to an emotion, doesn't it?
Of course it does. And I think, you know, even just, I think I said this to you a while ago, but there was definitely, I believe people are brought to you for a reason. I think there's a reason you and I both have become close friends, and, you know, and sort of on each other's support, really, in, you know, in business, in life, in everything. And I think there was definitely a part of me that had lost all of that silliness, and I think even just going through the coaching program with you, and I remember going home and talking to Colin, and, you know, not obviously about the coaching program, but just about how funny your energy is and how much it reminded me of who I am. And it really did bring out the silly side to me, and I'm really thankful for that. And you say you got so much from the soul coaching, but I actually found a lot of me as well, like those funny aspects of who I am, and, you know, not sort of holding back from being a little bit quirky and different and bonkers, you know. Well, we've seen that from your contributions at the comedy night, so what was the joke?
I don't think we'll go into the
Okay,
actual,
let's not go into it because it's a bit crude.
Yeah. We'll leave that. But yeah, I'm hoping that you'll come and do, we'll manifest, come and do the comedy course and do your first 2-minute performance.
Of course I will, yeah. I've got the
stand
perfect
up.
joke for that,
Yeah, I think I can see you up there. So,
oh, crikey, of course.
so who makes you laugh, or what makes you laugh? Or that you said Cole's funny, and obviously Charlotte and
Colin, Charlotte,
family.
you. What else is funny? I find animals really funny. I love animals. I think they're so funny and they're so intuitive. What else do I find funny? Just acting daft. I just love being daft and seeing other people being daft and quirky and crazy. And, you know, even when I go on weekends away and things, I'm always the bit of a bonkers one, doing the forward roll in the hotel, or
yes,
I've
seen the reels.
Have you seen?
I've seen the reels of the forward rolls.
Yes, always. It's a good job you didn't see the one when we went to see James Arthur. My goodness me, I done a forward roll in the middle of the hotel. Well, the corridor of the hotel, and my sisters and my 2 little nieces were like, well, one of my nieces actually wet herself because it was that funny. I'd done a forward roll and had a dress on, and then we'd done a backwards one, but when I went back, it got stuck, so you could literally see everything. And when I stood up, there was 2 people behind them. So it was all a bit, so they found it really funny, whereas me was a bit humiliated.
Yeah, I also thought it was quite funny how angry you were getting at the traffic as well in the car on the way back.
Oh my gosh. I was just ready to go home. Do you know what the funny thing was about that? Everyone, like, laughs at how, like, smothered I am with Charlotte. I'm just smitten with her. She's just me everything. And we were out shopping, and everyone was shopping for themselves, and And I was just like looking for this Easter bonnet and all of these crafts I can do with it for this. And the whole way home, I just held this Easter bonnet, and they were all laughing at me. And I was like, and my sister was putting her feet on me, and I was getting really, really peeved off. And I was like, I just wanted to get home to Charlotte, and they were just found it hilarious to just take the mickey out of me. But yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, well, you are a good sport though.
Yes, I am.
For taking the mick.
Yeah.
So, have you got a favourite joke?
I have.
Is it all right? It's for.
It involves a bit of movement.
It involves movement. Okay. Can you do it sitting down?
Yeah, I can do it sitting down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. How do you ask an ant to a party?
I don't know.
Do you want to come to a party?
I like that. So, good elements of comedy there.
Yes,
Surprise.
yes.
Contrast. Exaggeration. You've got it all in there.
For those that missed that, it was how do you ask an ant to a party?
Yeah.
And you jump down on the floor and you scream at the floor, do you want to come to a party? Yeah, that's me.
Thank you
that's
for
me one.
explaining that for people who are listening and not watching, because they'll be like, what
is
has
she
just gone on there?
Yes, that was the joke. That's why I jumped down by Mary's foot.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's me funny joke.
Love it.
Yeah.
So moving on to inspiration then.
Okay.
Who or what gives you inspiration?
Lots of different things. I think people give me inspiration, various different people. I think people who show their vulnerabilities but have boundaries within those vulnerabilities, I think give me so much inspiration and have done over the years. I love Louise Hay. She's a big inspiration of mine. And another inspiration is a child psychiatrist that I worked with when I was a young child. I always said, after doing work with her, like I'd love to be a child psychologist, and I've said that since I was a little girl. And I think there's lots of other inspirations out there. I think, but one of the main ones is Louise Hay. I think a lot of my healing came from her practices and the things that she taught. And another huge inspiration is Sandra, who runs the Hope College of Crystal Healing. She really helped me, without even knowing, understand layers of myself that I hadn't quite understood. And I was able to learn and understand that the effect and the intention around crystal therapy, and I'm very, very inspired and thankful for that, because the way I'd learned before wasn't that way. So it's enabled me to really, really connect more and more with energy and with my crystals, and that combined with sort of Louise Hay and the teachings of that, I've just created something really unique.
Yeah,
for me.
Well, definitely, because I've obviously had the crystal healing both as treatment and in soul coaching, and I found it absolutely unbelievable what it's unlocked, that weeks of talking therapy doesn't and couldn't ever, I don't think, because it is an energetic thing in your body, and I think so many people dismiss it.
Oh yeah.
And call it woo-woo or whatever.
The woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, as I think you always laugh, because I'm always amazed, like when we get the pendulum out and measure your chakras and your energy, and I'm like, look, I can see it. I can literally see it, and seeing is believing, isn't it?
Of course it is, and that's one of the most simplified practices, is that it's such a simple practice to do, but it's such an effective practice to do. And working with a pendulum and a simple formula of how to sort of identify where our energy is at is so, it's life-changing, because you can physically see it. I mean, I've done retreats and work with people in groups and courses and things before, and I remember a few weeks back I was working with someone on a retreat, and we were working with their energy, and they're a doctor, and they're very much like the science side, very open, don't get me wrong, very open and very respectful of the holistic world, but they were absolutely gobsmacked by the results and the transformation from just practicing one therapy session within that retreat to how the energetic bodies had changed, and actually physically seeing that without me having any contact with their own pendulum. They all had their own practice, and that was brilliant, because that's what I love so much about it, is when people see oh my gosh, I have access to this myself.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to teach people.
So I guess that moves on to them, how you'd like to inspire other people. It is, to me, well, I won't answer for you, but it is that empowering other people to take control of their own
energy.
Yeah,
I think you've got your emotional well-being, I think you've got your physical well-being, and then you've got your energetic well-being. And we spend a lot of time on our physical, a lot of time on our emotional, but if the energetic isn't aligned, there's never going to be that smooth sort of balance in life. And inspiring people to explore that and have fun with it. It doesn't have to be serious. You don't have to run around your bare feet on a beach naked, or you don't have to, all the sort of what do you call that word? The stereotypical sort of woo-woo stuff. You don't have to do all of that. Like, I'm the most not normal person. Live a normal life, love a prosecco, love a glass of wine, love going out with my friends, love being a bit bonkers, but I also have all of that included in my life, all of that woo-woo stuff that adds additional and amazing value to my everyday living.
Yeah, and your existence is proof that
yes,
it works.
Yes, exactly. The fact that I'm still here and I'm still alive, half the things I've gone through, and I'm not I've not gone down other avenues of addiction, and there's been times you could not want to be here, and you're pulling through those things. My goodness, it has been crystals, and energy work, and mindset.
And I guess now you can pass that on to your daughter as well.
Yes,
which must be really nice.
It is
to pass that on and heal perhaps things that have happened to you in your childhood. That won't happen again, and you can give them the tools to live the most abundant life from an early age. It'd be really interesting to see how Charlotte grows up with that knowledge
mindset. I mean, I think already, like, Charlotte is so intuitive. She's been there at times when I've delivered classes and things, and she's picked crystals up, and people have consented to it, and she's popped crystals on people, and she does all of the sort of actions that you're taught in crystal therapy. She naturally does it. And one time I remember when I was actually studying crystal therapy, there was a technique used with crystal, the blowing technique. I personally don't do that. It's not aligned with me as such. Other people might use that technique, I don't. But one day when I set up in the house and had the therapy bed in the front lounge, Charlotte actually, I'd done a therapy on Charlotte, and then she'd done one on me. And the one she was doing on me, she was having the crystal in her hand and blowing the energy of the crystal using the air element on me. And I was like, how does that child know that? Like, how does she know? I've never done that. I've never done it in a practice. I only really show that in like the advanced crystal workshop, because it's part of like the module that I've got to cover in there. But other than that, no, I've never showed her. So I was gobsmacked that she knew that.
But I think children are very intuitive, aren't they? And it unfortunately wanes. Like that, they say that children. That's why a lot of children might see spirits. When they say, "Oh, there's someone in the house," or it's because they're kind of still attached to the veil energy that's that we don't see. We're getting really woo-woo here, but there is a lot of studies about, and then that declines because then obviously they're forced into an education system that doesn't recognise that in any way.
What are your thoughts on? Oh, it's me asking you a question. Sorry. What are your thoughts on the spirit world? Just out of interest.
Well, I definitely believe that there's an energy, there's a residual energy left from people who've passed, and I know that obviously through our soul coaching, my dad died 15 years ago, and I didn't really get a chance to grieve for him in the immediate aftermath, and a big part of my healing in that soul coaching was to do that and feel his presence, and I felt his presence so intensely, but in a really nice, positive, comforting way. So I definitely believe that it's possible to tap into
absolutely
that energy that's there, and it's not spooky. It's just obviously there's a lot of stuff that's put around it, isn't there?
There's a lot of stuff that's spooky and dark, but actually connecting to that line of energy is one of the highest frequencies that anybody could ever work with. It's the energy of love, and love is the highest frequency anyone can work with. So that's why people feel those feelings, is because they're working with such a high energy of love. And in that high energy of love is that vibrational frequency, that really high frequency. And it's that frequency in which connects. And there's obviously different ways of connecting, but it's based on choice. And if you choose to connect in a loving and an intentional way, you'll never face anything dark. Whereas if you choose to not understand the actual process and actually look at it like negatively and go for readings, and you know, it's like tarot and things, like I'm not really a big fan.
Well, I think there's a lot of people.
I work with angelic cards and things like that, but
Yeah.
tarot, I think, you know, and there are people out there, you know, oh, don't drive a red car, you know, oh, you're going to meet someone called John. You're obviously going to go and look for someone called bloody John, and you're going to go and never ever buy a red car or a yellow car or whatever it says. But because you create your own destiny. I don't necessarily believe somebody can tell you what's going to happen in your future.
No.
I believe you create that yourself. You create your own destiny. However, I do believe in angelic guidance along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I felt it, and I experience it every day in what I do. So
yeah, well, that's the thing, because I think the times when I've in the past gone, oh, I wish I could talk to Dad about that, and I think now I go, well, I can, because I know that his wisdom is in me,
of course,
so that I will, when I ask myself a question, he's answering as well as I am. But it's like that intuitive wisdom. So, and that is, it's a powerful thing to be able to draw on.
And I think when you journal as well, and you're connecting with yourself, and you know, you're looking for answers, or you know, if there's something weighing on your mind, or there's something that, you know, a decision that you need to make that you're not sure about, and there's that one person that you would usually go to that is no longer here, and it's sad, and you know, you're missing the presence and that guidance. Journal, write, you know, put a lamp on, look out the window, you know, make the setting calm and content, and just ask. You know, you don't need to say out loud, come and give me answers, you know. just write, you know, I need support, you know. And believe me, when you start clearing the mind and you start writing things down, things will begin to be noticed within your thought process, and little ideas will drop in when you create that space, and that's coming from somewhere. You know, so I think you've just got to trust the process.
And listen to the signs.
Listen to the signs and be open-hearted. Yeah.
Moving on to spark then.
Okay.
It sounds like you had to dig deep for your spark at times, and especially in the last few months. So how did you get your spark back?
How did I get my spark back? I went deep. Acceptance. So accepting that I can't run my own business by myself at such a large scale of what my little brain was trying to get me to. That was difficult, but accepting that lit a little small flame here, and I think from that small flame I was able to see light, and then from that light I was able to then create more light and dig deep into my purpose, why, which is one of the most important things of why you start something, and remember who I am, and remember what I've been through, and remember that, you know, we all have things about us that aren't great, but we have a choice, and we can choose to be that person, that darker part of who we are, and let that sort of dim the light, or we can focus on that little tiny piece of light that has been sort of flushed out with a big chunk of water, and it's just got that little flame, and feed it, and you know, feed it good words, good emotion, empathy, support, and remember that no matter what anybody does to you, what they take away from you, materialistic, emotionally, your confidence. And this goes for anybody listening as well. Like, no matter what you've been through or what anybody has done to you, they can never, ever, ever take away that little spark. And all that takes is a little bit of nurturing and a little bit of comfort to relight it. And I think when you love yourself enough to remember who you are and know that that can never be taken away, you know, the fancy things and the, you know, a reputation and all of these external things can be pulled away from your entire existence, but you are still there.
Yeah.
And I think that's your superpower, and that's where the spark is. So holding that and nurturing and loving the self and feeding good words. And I did have to go back to basics for sure, go back to affirmations, meditation, practicing what I preach, you know, loving myself and, you know, mirror work and all of those things that I found really difficult over the years, and I thought I would never have to return to because I was kind of healed, if you like. But we never are fully healed because life happens, and then we have to go into those challenges again, and we have to face things that we never thought we'd face, and then we have to really hold on to that spark and nurture it to become bright again.
Yeah. And I think it's hard though, isn't it? Because I think I've always found that when things are tough, that's when I abandon my practices, and it's the worst possible time to do it. So.
But that's okay to do that. Abandon, you know, give yourself permission. That's the whole acceptance part. You know, I've kind of messed up. You know, I've gone beyond my means of what I'm able or capable of doing, and, you know, and accept that. And it's okay to rest, because the reason you can't be bothered doing something is because you're bloody exhausted.
Yeah.
Your energy's tired.
Yeah.
Your energy needs nurturing. So accepting that and being like, right, okay, everyone, I'm going to need some time. And then love yourself enough to give yourself that time and nurture yourself. And you can't be bothered, and it feels like a chore, and you think, oh, for God's sake, what am I doing? Oh, bloody hell. The amount of times Carla said to me, it'd be nice to actually have a conversation with you and hear your voice, not bloody the friggin' meditation, Jason bloody Sexy Stevenson, whatever you want to call him.
Favourite.
Because, you know, it is, but, and it seems daft, and it, you know, it's sad. You think, why have I got to do all these things just to feel okay? Why have I got to, you know, whether it be taking medication, or why have I got to do meditation, or why have I got to work with crystals, or why have I got to do, because if you want to live the best life and be the best version of who you are, it takes work.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think obviously when we got to the end of my soul coaching, and you was like, well, give me an honest feedback, and I said, honestly, I sometimes think this is a lot of effort.
I know.
I don't see other people doing it, and like, why am I bothering? And you said something like, well, don't do it then, but obviously you'll just have to be happy with where you're at in life and what's going on. I was like, okay.
I get it.
Message received.
Yeah.
Loud
and
and
that's
clear.
it. And it is just, sometimes you have to almost be cruel to be kind, and you know, letting yourself as well as another see that, okay, well, if you're struggling, take ownership. Take ownership of that. You know, set your boundaries. You know, love yourself enough. Let yourself have a shit day where you know, you've got your snuggies on. You know, I have my days where I look like my Trunchbull, my hair's on top of my head, I look like an absolute mess, and I'm sitting there eating like Weetabix crisps, chocolate, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then, guarantee you, the next day I will get up and my spark will be back.
Yeah.
Because you've listened to yourself and you know what you want. It feels silly, it feels a chore, it feels like, for goodness sake, I've got to get up and I've got to try, and I've got to, you know, why do I have to take this tablet just to make me feel better, or why do I have to, you know, have a meditation or go and work out in the gym? Well, you don't have to. You can just be in that feeling.
Yeah.
Or you can do that, and as much as it feels like a chore, it won't, because it will become part of your life. It's holistic living. It will become part of your existence. It will become part of your life, and it will no longer feel like a chore, and it will feel happy.
Yeah, I think, but you've hit the nail on the head of something I think that's missed out of so much wellness content. Is the start of it is rest and acceptance, because I think a lot of stuff that's pushed out there is like, do this, and then you'll be better, but without any acknowledgement that sometimes you're not in a place to be able to take the first step.
No.
Then you have to accept that and almost hit rock bottom and go, right, I'm really in it now. So what am I going to
really
do?
Not okay.
Which way am I going to go?
Yeah. And I think in accepting that and knowing that you're not okay is scary. You know, it's scary for a lot of people, but then when you see the transformation in people and they can feel that in themselves, people will tend to see the transformation before you do.
Yes.
But then when you actually see that transformation take place and you start to feel it, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, it's like, that's it now. There's no dropping below that frequency.
Yeah,
you know,
there's no going back.
There's no going back. This is it. It's spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
And that's, again, going back to what we spoke about earlier on, is that's where I probably stopped my practices because I thought I was where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And then it did spiral out of control, you know.
Yeah. Well, it is a classic thing, even, I know from people I know who have mental health issues, who have medication. They have it, they feel better, and they go, oh, I'm better now, and they stop taking it, and then it's back to square one, and it's the same thing, isn't it? And I think I've definitely made a mistake over my healing journey of thinking, oh, that's it, I'm healed now, that's done, and I'm like, no, actually it was just a sunny day and you'd had a nice coffee and everything felt all right for a bit. And then you're like, and then something goes bang, hits you from T-bones you from the side, and you're like, oh no, there's still work to do here. But I guess that's actually quite a nice thing in some ways, to think you're constantly evolving, aren't you?
Of course you are constantly evolving, and you've constantly got those practices to fall on. You know, it does take time, and you know, we all will have to do something to make us feel okay, because we've all been through things. So it feels like a chore, but then as it becomes a progressive practice each day, there can be a week or two where you go without having to do any of that, and you're okay, and then something will happen. You'll have a stressful day in work and you'll go, right, okay, tonight I know what I need because I'm aligned and I understand that I'm getting a bit overwhelmed, so now this is where I need rest. And that's the power behind it. Is at first it is hard, and you know, it can be difficult, but then it becomes so much easier because you have these techniques to fall back to. Yeah,
and it's nice to have that safety net of something that isn't destructive, I think.
Exactly.
Obviously, because most people perhaps will go for
nice glass
alcohol
bottle,
or drugs or whatever that's negative, and I think it's a real security blanket to know that you've got other things, and you don't have to fall back on those.
And healthier things, you know, healthier choices, you know. I think definitely, like, you know, one of my downfalls is comfort eating. I will comfort eat. I'm aware of it. I haven't done anything about it yet. I do intend to. I've accepted it.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready to stop that yet.
Yeah.
So for me, it's, well, I'm aware I comfort eat. I'm aware that I need to stop that for my health. I've accepted it. And now I'm going through the process of grieving a Mr. Kipling. You know, so you gotta let yourself go. I know soon I will be in a place where I'm like, right, okay, I'm gonna go back to Nick, who's like doing some wellness coaching with me. I'm gonna go back to her and I'm gonna be ready to go, and I'm gonna be there. But I know that right now I'm not, and that's okay.
And it's better to do that than try it and fail, isn't it? Because I think
small steps.
You know, from me, that my approach to wellness is to do everything
in one go.
Right, I'm gonna go on the Peloton. I'm gonna meditate for an hour a day. I'm gonna drink 2 litres of water. I'm only gonna eat green food. I'm gonna walk 5 miles a day. And then obviously within a week, you're like, well, that's not sustainable, is it?
So, and it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah, then you feel a failure. And you're like, oh, God, I failed again.
Exactly. So you're automatically setting yourself up to completely fail.
Yeah.
So it's important to know and accept and go, right, okay, I know these things need changing, but it's going to take me a bit of time, so I'm going to process it for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But knowing your process, that, you know, I'm getting there, and small steps every day. So, you know, go in and open a box of Jaffa cakes, you know, for me, the whole 2 tubes of the Jaffa cakes will be gone inside of 2 minutes. Now, I'm aware of that, and I'll be like, well, I don't need the whole tube. And actually, why are you opening the cupboard to get the Jaffa cakes? Oh, because Charlotte and the dog and everyone's stressing me out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just have one, and then step outside for a minute, and then go back in.
Yeah.
And then there's still another one for tomorrow. When you have the same experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's small changes over a long period of time will have the best impact.
Yeah.
Definitely think that.
And that, I think, then moves us seamlessly onto success then.
Oh, yeah.
So what does success look like for you now, and has that changed for you over the years and even in the recent past?
Happiness. Always happiness. I think I've said that on the first podcast.
Yeah.
Success is happiness, and I think, you know, success lies within your own soul and your own happiness. And I think there's been times over the year where I've thought I was happy, and looking back, it was so destructive, if that's the right word to use. For example, you know, you think you're happy in one situation, and then you experience a whole other. And now, obviously, experiencing a relationship of complete companionship and happiness and love and actual respect and all of the beautiful things that lie within all the elements of relationship, including arguments and all of that jazz. I think looking back at experiences from a relationship perspective, I think success is happiness, and happiness lies within the truth of your existence. And sometimes we can be living not in our truth and be really, really unhappy and have really unhappy and unhealthy relationships, but still feel like they're a success because our self-worth is on the floor. But actually, when you experience and you go through that process of healing, and you go through the success of overcoming challenges and your own lack of self-belief, lack of self-worth, all of those things, it gets you to a point of actually recognising what happiness is. And that is then obviously the success that lies within you is the happiness, isn't it?
And if success is happiness, that means it's within everyone's grasp, doesn't it?
Of course it is, yeah.
Because it's not an external thing of how much you earn or your car or your house.
Absolutely not, no. It's what's inside your soul. Yeah. It's what's in your soul, and what, you know, what you have access to, what we all have access to, is there. Sometimes our self-worth is not in a place where it needs to be. Therefore, we don't get to experience real happiness.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful and so glad that I got to experience that, and still do experience that every day with the life that I have and the support that I have and the relationships. And obviously Colin, you know, he has literally been my saviour in everything, and to me that is what success looks like, for sure.
Love that. So what would young Jane say if you could see you now, do you think?
Ooh, it's a different way of putting it, isn't it? Thank you for keeping me safe.
Yeah. That's it. Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Thank you for keeping me safe and loving me enough to grow, and remember that I'm still there, and, you know, nurture me when needed, keep me small on your heart, and whenever a trigger comes in, you know, just giving yourself a little rub and knowing you're all right.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. Well, thank you for coming back on
Thank
again.
you for having me. It's been lovely.
Yeah, I think that was a really, really good chat. And and I think everyone will find a lot of inspiration and comfort from it.
I hope so, because it's definitely an open-hearted chat. Yeah. And I think people do relate to that, don't they? And they find inspiration within being open and vulnerable.
I think that's the thing. If you see people's vulnerabilities, it helps you understand that.
Of course, it
everybody's
does.
Even the people you think are Teflon and in armour have got vulnerabilities underneath.
Of course.
And it just gives you a bit of inspiration to think, well, I can fight another day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Mary.